What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video that's a little bit different from the videos I've been doing lately. So as you may know if you are a regular watcher of my channel, but I am a lawyer, I went to law school, and I am documenting my journey to pay off my student loan debt in detail on this channel. But I have not answered barely any questions about law school or being a lawyer. So I asked you guys here on YouTube and on Instagram if you would be interested in that video, and so many people replied they were interested and gave me really good questions that they would want answered. So in today's video, I'm going to be answering your questions about law school and being a lawyer. So let's jump right into your questions. So the number one question, I am sorry I'm not going to be answering, but the number one question, I'll tell you right off the bat, is what type of attorney are you? Now, I practice in a very narrow area, and I like to keep YouTube and my practice as an attorney separate, so I'm not going to get into details, but I will tell you that I am more of a transactional attorney. I'm not a litigator, and I am not in court all the time, up against opposing counsel, yelling objection, all of that type of stuff. So yeah, I do go to court, but my cases are usually uncontested, which means that I'm the only one in front of the judge, or me and my client, and there's no opposing counsel. Nobody is challenging what we're trying to do, but it's something we can't do without a judge. And so I really do enjoy going to court, but I am not a litigator or anything like that. Most of what I do is not in court, and I'm just working for clients and, getting stuff done for them, not in an adversarial manner necessarily. Okay, so the next question says firm culture, question mark, work hours, question mark. So firm culture. How do I explain this? I work for a law firm. My law firm is a mid-sized law firm, and so I work full-time as an attorney. A mid-sized law firm has between 50 and 100 attorneys. There's small law firms, there's mid-sized, and then there's the big law firms that have 100, 200 plus attorneys. So my firm is a decent size, but it's considered a mid-sized law firm. So my firm is more of a lifestyle firm, meaning that there is a billable hours requirement, but it is lower than the other big law firms, which have crazy billable hours requirement. And so actually, let me back up one step and explain what a billable hour is, because you may have heard of this or you may have not, but it is a big thing for attorneys. And so what it is when you do work as an attorney in many law firms, you have to track billable hours. And what that means is for every 6 minutes, it counts as 0.1. So 6 minutes is 0.1 and 12 minutes is 0.2, and so on all the way up to an hour, which counts as 1 billable hour. And so every 6 minutes of work that you do, you have to track those billable hours and what client that work is for. And if it sounds tedious and exhausting, it absolutely is, and it's one of the worst parts of being a lawyer, I think, but I'll get to that in a later question. But yeah, so my firm is a lifestyle firm and does have a billable hours requirement, but it is, like I said, lower than these big law firms, so it's a little bit more manageable to keep up with without working crazy hours, but it is still a very demanding job. So firm culture is a little bit more laid back at my firm than you might find at one of these big firms that's super competitive, and people are trying to make partner, and there's these really high salaries and high profile clients. I'm not getting that type of thing, but it is very competitive, and there's this, because of the billable hours requirement, there's always this rush feeling. When you're talking to another attorney, you both are on the clock, and if you talk about something too long, then either the client is going to complain that you spent too much time on something, or you're going to have to write down your time and not charge for that time. So there's always this rush feeling, and I think that's something that's really hard about being an attorney is you want to take your time and do a good job, but when you're tracking your time for billable hours, then there's just this pressure to get things done quickly. And that's a hard thing to balance. So I have mainly worked for one firm my entire career, and so I only know the culture at my firm. It may be totally different at another firm, but there's just a lot of pressure on the numbers and getting your billable hours in and all that kind of stuff. And your numbers are really just how you're judged at the end of the year for raises and bonuses and stuff. They're very heavy on all the data. So yeah, work hours. I kind of touched on this. I guess it depends if you're talking pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, but it's kind of similar. It's just that post-pandemic, I'm working almost exclusively remotely. But for work hours, to answer the question, I mean, I would say it's pretty regular work hours plus some nights and weekends. So I usually work an 8-hour day. Right now, my day is usually more like 7 to 3 because of like how I've got my situation with childcare. But yeah, I usually work like maybe 7 to 3-ish. And then I'll log on at night from anywhere between 15 minutes to 2 hours or more. Or sometimes on the weekend, I'll log on if there's a deadline that I need to meet. But yeah, I'm not working every Saturday and every Sunday. What does a typical day look like for me? A typical day looks like usually maybe like 2 hours worth of time spent doing emails, maybe 2 to 3 hours of time on phone calls or, you know, meetings, Zoom conferences, whatever. And then like a couple hours doing the actual work, which is any like drafting documents or writing letters or analyzing financial statements, something like that. And then, you know, there's like some time doing administrative stuff. So like checking my to-do list or entering my billable hours or, you know, looking at my calendar and trying to like schedule things. So that's kind of my typical day. Now the thing that's hard with billable hours is like your time scheduling and entering time and doing billing and all that stuff. That's not billable. So if you're supposed to bill a certain number of hours in the day, like if you work an 8-hour day and you're supposed to bill 8 hours, like that's not possible. Like if you want to bill 8 hours, you need to work like an 11 or 12-hour day in my experience. So like I don't bill 8 hours a day, and like that's not, because that's not what my firm requires. But like if you wanted to, like that's how many billable hours you can kind of fit into a day. Okay, balancing full-time career and being a mom. It's a struggle because I want to be great at both and I can't be 100% in either one, like dedicate 100% of my time to either one. But you just have to kind of shut the other off when you're not there. Like when I'm working, I need to focus and not be worried about what my daughter's doing and just like focus on my work and be efficient while I'm at work. And then when I'm with her, I need to turn off my work brain and not worry about my cases or my deadlines or this person who emailed who like wants a response immediately. And I just need to be present with my daughter and my husband and do family time. And that is really hard. It's something I'm working on all the time. It's something I talk to my therapist about. I go to therapy once a week and it is wonderful, and I highly recommend it if you have access to a therapist. It has been so good for me. So anyway, yeah, it's something I'm constantly working on, but I think the biggest thing is to stay organized in your work stuff, and that way when you put it down, you can really try to like actually unplug and not be checking your phone and just focus on family stuff. But it's really hard. It's a very stressful profession, I feel like, and yeah, it's not an easy answer, and it looks different for everyone, I think. How did you become successful after law school? I've heard of people graduating and not being able to find a job. So my story is a little unusual in that like I went straight from undergrad to law school. However, I like should have taken time off in between, because by the time I graduated law school, I was so burnt out that I needed time off. So I didn't go right into practice after I graduated. I did take the bar and I passed the bar. If you're not familiar with like how school works in the US or just, you know, in general, you graduate high school at 18. If you go to undergrad, that's usually a 4-year program, and then law school is an additional 3 years on top of that. So after you turn 18, you've got an additional 7 years of school. So I graduated from law school at 25. So yeah, when I graduated, I was having a really hard time for a lot of reasons that I won't get into, but I was struggling, definitely. It was a very difficult time and I was so burnt out, and so I took a couple years off and took like a gap year or 2 after law school when my student loan interest was already accruing. So whatever, it is what it is, but I needed it. And so I just worked at a restaurant and like bartended for a couple years and like got my life together, and then I went to look for a job. So it was hard for me to get a job out of law school because I had moved across the country after law school with my husband, and I had taken a couple of years off and I didn't have any contacts where I was. Like it was not easy. But if you know, just keep putting yourself out there, you eventually find something. So I literally like pounded the pavement. Like I brought my resume and showed up at different law firms and was like, hi, are you hiring? Here's my resume. Or sent an email to the hiring manager or the firm, you know, whatever firm manager, just looked at firms I was interested in and sent them my resume, and even if there wasn't an opening. And that actually gave me an opportunity to network with someone who had coffee with someone, and then had a coffee with somebody they recommended, and then there was like a chain of like 3 or 4 people, and it eventually led me to my first job. And I stayed there for about a year until I got my second job, which I have been in now for like almost 6 years. So I graduated in 2012, and so yeah, that's how I did it. It is a relatively secure profession depending on what area you're in. You know, there can be more ups and downs, but like there's jobs to be had. So if you are worried about finding a job after law school, or you're struggling to find one, like just keep trying and you'll get one. Did you worry about the costs before you decided to attend? Did you go directly from law school, from undergrad? So I just talked about that. I did go directly from undergrad to law school. Did I worry about the cost? Yes and no. I mean, I was worried about the cost, and I was very worried about the cost, but there wasn't really an option to go to law school without having some cost. And so I just thought it was a secure profession and didn't really think much about it beyond that, that it was just the cost of doing business, the cost of going to school, and then you'll be able to make lots of money and pay off your loans. And you know, that's not always the case. Not all lawyers make a lot of money. Like, it really depends on what you do and how much you want to work, and it's not a guarantee of like tons and tons of money. And like, lawyers don't all drive fancy cars. Like, clearly I've explained our financial situation. I'm in my mid-30s. I've been a lawyer for like a practicing attorney for like 6+ years, and I have never made that much money. Like, finally in the past couple years, my salary has gotten above 6 figures. So, but I'm kind of getting off track. To get back to the question, was I worried about the money? I think the thing is, for me, and I don't know how common this is, but I didn't really think that like there was an option other than law school. Like, it was just kind of like always what I thought I was supposed to do in a way, and I just didn't really question it. And I was 22 when I started it. Like, that's very young. A lot of the people I went to law school were 24, 25, 26. Like, they had taken a few years off after undergrad and gone out into the world and tried things. And I wish I would have done that, and I think I would have had a better perspective on like what law school was, and maybe enjoyed it a little bit more, or maybe decided to do something different. Like, who knows what that would have been. But I try not to regret my decisions, because like my decision to go to law school led me to, you know, start dating my husband and have my daughter and all that stuff. So I wouldn't change any of that for the world. But yeah, I was worried about the money, but I just didn't think like that it was just kind of something I had to do. I don't know if that really makes sense, but that's how I felt. What class subject changed your world view the most? I really enjoyed constitutional law. It's just basically like studying all the cases on how the Constitution, the US Constitution, has been interpreted. And then I think the most memorable thing I learned in law school was the felony murder statute, because I went to law school in California where they have felony murder. And that means if you, I'm going off of memory, I looked it up briefly, but I think it was if there's a murder that happens while you're in process of committing a felony, then you can be charged with murder. So for example, if you are the getaway driver in a robbery and like somebody is holding up a convenience store, and the person holding up the convenience store shoots the clerk and kills them, and you're the getaway driver, like you are responsible under the law for that murder and can be charged with murder too. And it just didn't make a lot of sense to me, because like maybe you are not necessarily hanging around with people you should be hanging around with, but like, you know, you aren't always responsible for what other people are doing, and you don't necessarily know what you're getting into. I've been in situations where I didn't realize somebody was doing something they shouldn't be doing until like it was kind of too late. So I don't know, I just thought that one was like really surprising, and made me think a lot about our legal system and different like inequality that can happen from these different laws. And I don't know, it just made me reflect a lot. So what is the best/worst part of law school? I would say the worst part of law school is that it's competitive, because everything is graded on a curve. So if, you know, other people do worse than you, then that increases your grade. And like my first year, I had an experience where I was in a study group, and there was somebody who was purposely giving wrong answers to the group in hopes to like have them get those questions wrong on the test, which is just like, come on, like if you need to do that rather than just being good by yourself, like that's just ridiculous. But like that kind of thing I don't think is that uncommon in law school. I mean, some people are really hardcore. They're trying to do crazy things, and like having a good grade will get you a good, you know, summer internship or clerkship or whatever. And so, you know, you're around like a lot of really, really smart, motivated people, and so it's hard to do well, and so people get super competitive. Oh, and the other worst part of law school is just the reading. There's so much reading. Like, you don't end up doing all of it, but they assign so much reading. Best part of law school, I would say, is it is inspiring to be around a lot of like really smart, motivated people who are trying to go out and make big changes in the world. Yeah, just kind of cool when you're like watching people who you know are gonna go out there and do big things. What would you have done differently? I kind of talked about this, but I would have probably taken time off between undergrad and law school just to like do some internships and make sure it's really something that I loved. How was your experience taking the bar exam? Brutal. It's a brutal test. It's just like, I don't know that it's the best way to determine if somebody's proficient to be a lawyer. Like, it's just a test of memorization. Can you memorize the stuff? Like, I feel like it should be open book. I don't know why it's a closed book test. So the bar exam in most states is a 2-day test. It's 6 hours, so 3 hours in the morning, and then you take break for lunch, and 3 hours in the afternoon, and you do that 2 days. I took the test in 2012, so some of it's changed since then, but day one when I took it was all multiple choice, and day two was all essays. And yeah, I just spent an entire summer memorizing stuff. I graduated in May and took the bar at the end of July, and the whole time I was like, it was a full-time job. I studied 40, 50 hours a week for like 10 weeks for that test, and I passed it the first time, but it was brutal, especially because I was burnt out and didn't really want to practice law at that point, and didn't practice law for like a couple years after that. So I wanted to take it, get it out of the way, which I did, and I'm glad I did. But yeah, it's hard, but it's totally doable. Best bar prep course / material. So like I said, I took the bar 9 years ago, but when I took it, Barbary was the, like, you know, the course. It's B-A-R-B-R-I. I think Barbary has been the #1 review course for the bar exam for a long time. It may have changed since I took the bar, but I think that was like the oldest and the most trusted one, so that's the one that I went with. How did you decide what law school to attend? Do you regret taking out the student loans? It's funny because the two law schools that I was like looking at were the ones that were most geographically close to where I thought I was going to live after law school, so I'd have contacts to network with. And I ended up moving across the country to like 3,000 miles away from where I went to law school, so that didn't really matter. But that's kind of what I was looking at, like, where do I want to have my network of people and network of alumni, and also like what sort of offers did schools give me in terms of scholarships and stuff, and kind of balancing those things. And then, oh, the other part of it, do you regret taking out student loans? I try not to regret things in life. Like, the most successful people don't have regrets because they say it made them who they are today, and I hope that at the end of my life I look back and feel that way. I don't know that I can answer that question quite yet because I haven't paid them off, and I haven't seen how my career plays out and what I do for the duration of my career, so I just don't know at this point. But I definitely feel regretful a lot of days and feel very emotionally burdened by my student loan debt. Best and worst parts of practicing law in the US. Well, I think the worst part is law school is super expensive, and billable hours, like I talked about, is very stressful. It's just a stressful job. I think there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders to handle things correctly, because if you make a mistake, like, it can be major and you can get sued by your client and you can lose your license to practice law. So that's a piece of it that's also very stressful. The best part of practicing, I would say 2 things. One is you really are helping people, like, especially in the area that I practice in, I feel like I really am helping people that are good people that couldn't figure this stuff out on their own, and that's why they came to me, and I'm just helping them in a situation where they couldn't do it otherwise. And the other thing that I enjoy the most is going to court. Going into court and like explaining to the judge why they should give you the thing you're asking for and them agreeing with you is super, super cool and like the best feeling when you get a judge to sign off on something, because when a judge is signing off on something, like it's something you cannot really get any other way except going to court, and a person without an attorney would have like slim to no chance of doing it. So again, you're really helping people and you're getting something that's like very hard to get, and that's a very rewarding feeling. How do lawyers get paid? My experience is in the UK, but TV shows make it look super different to here. I work for a firm, so I get paid as like a salaried employee, a direct deposit to my account every 2 weeks, like any other job. But I think what the question is asking is, how do clients pay lawyers? Because you know, there's different ways that clients can pay lawyers. So like I've talked about, there's billable hours. So I have a billable rate. So every hour that I bill is worth a certain number of dollars, and that's what the client gets billed. Most of my cases are hourly. There's also flat fee cases where we say, you know, to do this thing that we do all the time that's routine, we've set a flat fee of X amount of dollars, and so you pay us X amount of dollars and then we do this thing for you, and we still track our time to make sure that we're being profitable. The third way that I'm aware of to get paid is through contingency fees, and I have never done a contingency fee case. It's more for like personal injury or medical malpractice or stuff like that. But basically it's where the lawyer says, okay, I know this case is going to take a lot of time and you don't really necessarily have money, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a percentage of whatever I get for you. So if we sue, you know, this doctor or this insurance company or whatever, and you get a settlement of $1 million, then I get X percentage of that money as my fee. So that's another way that lawyers get paid. So usually it's hourly, flat fee, or contingency. I'm not aware of other methods, but there might be some other way that the fee agreements are set up, but those are the ones that I know of. And finally, last question, do you think there are ways for people to go to law school for free or low cost with scholarships and other opportunities? If so, what are some that you've heard of? Absolutely, it's possible, but it's very hard. There are tuition scholarships that you can get from the school. One thing I would highly recommend is if you get into law school, like negotiate with them. School tuition is negotiable, and that's not just for law school, that's for any school that you go to. Like, it is negotiable, and they can charge whatever they want and they can discount it however they want, and they call it a scholarship, but like that's not exactly how it works. Like, there are some real scholarships, but within the school, like if you get a scholarship for tuition from the school, it's basically like they're giving you a discount. Obviously, if you can live at home or live with somebody where you don't have rent, like that is huge, because I was single at the time I started law school and I was moving to a high cost of living city, and so I was taking out loans not just for tuition but for living expenses, and that's what really made my loans balloon, because I was paying for rent in LA while I was going to law school, and I didn't live in a fancy apartment and I didn't spend tons of money like going out to the club all the time or anything, but like I had to eat and I had to pay rent and I had to buy books. For me, I did not work my first year. It is so demanding that I just didn't have room for work, and they recommend you not work your first year of law school. After that, I did work some, but not full-time at all. Obviously, if you can work that in or go part-time and like spread it out for a longer period of time, so you're going part-time to law school but working part-time or even full-time, that's another way to do it. But I mean, it just depends on you as a person, like how much you want to take on for how long, and like, is that sustainable and is that healthy? You know, pushing yourself to your max capacity to save some money, like maybe that's a smart decision that's going to set you up for success for the rest of your life. But if you graduate from law school so burnt out that now you're getting to this demanding career really burnt out, that's not a great situation either. So it just depends on the person, but there's definitely opportunities. I mean, there's scholarships, other scholarships you can probably get. I didn't do a lot of research on scholarships when I was in school. Sometimes you can be like an assistant or do research for a professor and get paid some sort of stipend. So there's little income opportunities there. But yeah, the biggest one is negotiate your tuition and try to get a scholarship from the school where they like give you a 50% discount on tuition or something like that, because I did get that. I got a 50% tuition scholarship, but because of the cost of living and taking out loans for living, and then my interest compounding over years, like my cost of law school became very expensive very quickly. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. Hopefully that was helpful. So this was really fun. This video is probably way longer than I meant it to be, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have other questions that I didn't answer, then put them in the comments below. If I get enough questions, maybe I'll do a part 2 at some point. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos from me, then you can hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you as a subscriber. And if you like this video, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps out my channel. And I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Bye.